Hello and welcome. We are Beyond the Lane, and my name is Mark. We are going to be talking about all things Tottenham Hotspur. There are a number of things to talk about over the last wee while. First up, we're going to speak about the match against Arsenal in Hong Kong. We're going to be talking about that cringy video Forrest released about Morgan Gibbs-White, and we are going to be talking about all the transfer rumours in and out of the club, confirmed, and rumours that are going about right now. So first up is that friendly match in Hong Kong against Arsenal. 1-0 victors for the Spurs. We scored an absolute wonder goal in the first half, bang on half time pretty much. And what goal it was. Papa Matasar, 45 minutes, must be about 35, 40 yards out, just over the halfway line, and caught Rea off his line to give us the victory. So, number of things to take away from this one. So, we look at the tactical display in terms of the formation used 4-2-3-1, something we've seen a wee bit with Ange Postecoglou, but on a constant attacking with that lack of defence. Whereas the defence today was absolutely solid, including the actual whole team in terms of defensive formations, playing, moving on and off the ball as well, which was really, really good to see. Didn't really have an awful lot to do for Carey. I don't think made a single save in the game because he didn't need to. Arsenal, I think last I seen, had some like 16 shots with one on target, which you think about 200 million spent on that squad so far, running up into this brand new season, and they couldn't even put the ball in the back of the net. But I think that says a wee bit more about Spurs. In terms of defensive work, they were superb. It could have been better, but in terms of what we've seen last season, and certainly in this, and I know this is a pre-match friendly, and there's, it's not Premier League football or cup competition, but I think what it shows is the defensive work and the tactical play that we've had from Thomas Frank in such a short time. Looks good for the season coming up, especially when you see the last two friendlies against Luton and Wickham. All right, we didn't do so well, and I think everyone was expecting big wins there. But actually, from a defensive point of view, the work was actually all right. So this was a game taken very seriously by both teams, very strong starting 11s named by both clubs. And if we think about it, in that first half, we played very, very well. I think we hit the post 3 times. We had Romero do a nutmeg on Kyle Havertz before Havertz went flying into Porro on the 42nd minute. What else did we have in this game? We had Porro trying to take a throw in down the side with Michael Arteta coming out of his technical area and trying to get in the way and disrupt us taking a throw in with Porro pushing him away, and the fourth official having to get involved and then trying it again afterwards. So there's a few flashpoints throughout. Porro and Kudus both hit that post in the second half. Richie had one that probably, if he'd had a few more games under his belt, probably would have headed that in at the back, but it was an awkward ball coming in, and I just kind of commented, I think we had been a wee bit sharper and a wee bit more fitter, he probably would end up putting that one in the back off the net. And then at the end, obviously, there's the trophy presentation. You'll see everyone calling it a Mickey Mouse Cup, and I guess to an extent it is, but at the end of the day, a trophy is a trophy. People say, oh, it's just been some played by two teams. Go and have a look across other different sports. We've got the Calcutta Cup, etc. It's only played by two teams, but it is a highly thought of and prized trophy to be won. I'm not saying this is in the same kind of caliber, but it's just an example of where two teams play to win a trophy, and they're against dreaded rivals. So us and the Gooners is one example of that. And at the end, with the trophy presentation, we had Romero forcibly putting the armband on Sonny to go and pick up that trophy. Normally on wee tournaments like this here, not always the captain will go and pick up that trophy or the cup. It would maybe be somebody else within the squad who do that, but it goes to show how much Sonny is well thought of in that game. Good thing about the game was it showed a wee bit more sharpness about the team. Kudus, my God, what a masterclass that boy's shown when he's playing. In the games we've seen him so far, I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Could be an absolute steal for the money that we've paid for him. Certainly what we've seen so far, he certainly has been doing the business going forward with the ball, off the ball, getting the ball back, etc. And I think, the only time will tell once that Premier League season kicks off and we get into the way of things, it'll probably show a bit better on terms of that. But I think the general feel, certainly my own thing, I'm looking a bit more positive towards this season. Hopefully we'll take on what Ange did last season in terms of the attacking play, but with Thomas Frank's tactical nuance, we'll see a bit more of a solid all-round defensive play as well, getting in some of those set pieces as well. And we looked very dangerous from the set pieces in that game, whereas Arsenal actually didn't really know what to do. And I think they did one set piece play in particular that looked a bit odd, with them all kind of lined up outside the box and all charging in when the ball came in. So long may it continue. We beat them. I know they'll turn around and go, "Oh, it's only a friendly," but at the end of the day, you play for your pride, and our pride's shown that day. So, a lovely result for us. Another wee trophy in the cabinet, and we'll move on to the next one and see how that goes. I think the next friendly, if I'm right, is going to be against Bayern, so that'll be an interesting one, especially when we get into the transfer news a wee bit later on. So moving on from that, we are going to have a wee quick chat about that cringe-worthy video that Nottingham Forest released for Gibbs Morgan White signing a brand new contract with them. Now, it's hard to tell where this whole thing was going. Initially, the start, it looked like it was a done deal for us, purchasing the player for £60 million, activating a release clause. But the more it went on week by week, there's so many things coming out saying, oh, there's certain variations within that release clause that we would need to meet or haven't met or did meet or didn't meet. So it kind of got a wee bit long-winded. And I think certainly from the club's perspective, the fact that we were so quiet through that, they showed a bit more professionalism than our counterparts at Forest. But it probably goes to show that were we as serious as we probably were and taking that one forward once things started to come out there. And another point that I'm personally sitting looking at is that we've been played by not just the player, but the agent in trying to either get a bigger move for him for more money in the agent's pocket, or were they pushing, as we've seen already this season, a player we've been interested in actually pushing forward on, than them then going on and agreeing a far larger contract and deal at the club that they're currently at. However, when you watch that video, and if you haven't, do have a look on YouTube, it is out there. I've never seen something so cringy in all of my life. You looked at the body language, certainly from Morgan Gibbs-White, where he's sitting there, arms folded, head down when he's talking. He looked like a wee schoolboy that's just been shouted at by the headmaster for doing something he shouldn't have done. And it almost can't help but feel that the fact that he had to use Marinak's name 4 times the whole way through that as well was a very scripted piece of work, and it was more or less the owner of Forrest saying, I'm the boss, you'll do what I tell you, kind of thing. You can't tell how much bullying has gone on in the background. There's a lot of rumours out there about how Marinakis deals and conducts his business, certainly in Greece, with Olympiacos as well as other things. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's been a bit of strong arm going on in the background, especially if we're looking at, well, how did people know about the release clause? Who released that information? Who gave it to Spurs? If in fact that is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a look at the transfer market, and certainly the way Spurs have been going previously, we've been bidding in and around between 50 to 60 million for players. We're not really going anywhere up and above that. So the 60 million, to me, kind of seems like something that we would have put in for a player of his calibre, 24 years of age, England international, one of their best players, 60 million, especially when you look at Kudus when we paid 54.5 for him. It's in and around the same ballpark. So whether there was something there or not, I don't know. But at the end of the day, things happen. That is now put to the side. We're not going to be signing them. We're certainly not going to go back and offer them 70, 80 million for them. That's not going to happen. So, at the end of the day, why waste time on a player that clearly now doesn't want to come to us and a club doesn't want to sell to us? So let's move on and actually look at our options in terms of, well, if we do need another attacking player like that, who we're going to go after, where we're going to go to. So, hopefully this is the end of this saga with Nottingham Forest and Gibbs-White, and we can move on and actually start bringing more players in. Speaking of players, so we have a number of things to talk about in terms of transfers. So Jed Spence is currently supposedly negotiating a brand new contract with the club. Given what he's done since he stepped into the team last year when Ndogi got injured, he certainly is a player I've always liked since I've seen him playing with Middlesbrough on loan and then us picking him up. I just think it's been a bit unfortunate. He's been caught in club politics between Conte and Levy in terms of he was a club signing and not a player that he wanted, something Conte was very, very clear on and making sure everybody knew this was not somebody that I wanted. But he came in last season and really did make that spot his own and showing people where he was. And I think he was really unfortunate not to have picked up an England call, because I think certainly the way he had played at that point, he certainly deserved at least to be in that first squad afterwards. But who knows with the season coming forward that maybe he'll get a chance to get in there. And certainly from what I've seen of him in the friendlies so far, he certainly seems to be picking up where he left off last season. I think he definitely deserves an extension to his contract. He certainly played for it, and hopefully we'll get that one over the line because I'd like to see him stay at Spurs a bit longer as he's a very solid option, playing either in there at left back or even pushing him up a little bit further forward onto the wing. Mikey Moore has just confirmed a loan deal to Rangers today as well. So that's really good news. He's going to get some very good experience up here in Scotland. Certainly in the Premier League. I know it's a two-team race, but it's a physical league. He's going to have to build up his strength. He's going to end up having to take hard tackles. He's also going to have to dish them out. And certainly with Rangers, there may be some of that European experience in there as well. Plus the fact that he's got a very good chance of probably picking up some cups as well along the way. So in terms of his development, remember, Defoe was there a little while back as well when he still played and had a good time at the club, and certainly recommended to Mikey Moore that this would be a great move in part of his development. I think in terms of Spurs, it's probably the best one. Rather than sending them back into the Championship, I think maybe getting them up here and getting that kind of game time as well as, trying to develop that attitude as well as that strength because he's going to need it in the Scottish Premier League. So for Mikey Moore, I think that's probably the best suit for him. I think when you're looking at where he likes to play, which is down the left-hand side, you've got Son, you've got Odegaard, as well as a number of other players can switch into that wing as well. So in terms of game time, it's going to be very, very restricted for him. Spurs look to have signed Palhinha on a 1-year loan, so we'll have him for the entire season. There is an option to buy for 30 million at the end of that, no obligation. So in terms of business, it's a very good one done by Spurs. As long as he passes his medical, then everything should be grand. And it really ticks the box in terms of looking for that defensive midfielder to come in and help out with the team. Palhinha is 29. He's going to be 30 over the course of that loan spell, closer to 31 by the end of it. I can't see Spurs spending 30 million to bring in a 31-year-old player. Certainly not at the end of the season. So we'll probably look at something, work on something over the course of that time. Unless Daniel Levy can pull out the magic again as he did with Tell and drop that down to maybe 15, 20 million, then we might be looking at something there. But the player himself comes in with a great deal of experience, certainly Premier League proven. If you look at his defensive stats in terms of his final season at Fulham before moving to Bayern, he was certainly the top of his class and right across the board in terms of his defensive work, tackles, etc. So definitely an improvement and certainly competition in there for the squad for the likes of Basuma and Bentancur, especially if we don't move Basuma on. If he's wanting to get game time, he's going to have to bring the consistency, which he hasn't been able to do for quite some time now. Didn't quite work out for playing at Bayern. Managers changed. Fitz and Company came in, favoured two other players in that role over him, so it never really happened, which is a shame because he is a quality player and a player I'm really happy to see at Spurs. I think we were interested in at the time, but he chose Bayern. So again, a really good piece of business, and I think a small clap for Daniel Levy getting that one done. We have been linked with a number of players as well over the course of this pre-season campaign too. So Muani at PSG. There's still talks, and it's been rumbling for a wee while, Juventus over the last couple of weeks about them trying to sign the centre forward. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere, but it seems to be on and off over the last wee while that we are going to jump in and hijack it. I can't see it being somebody that we'll bring in. I think he would rather go to Juventus than to us. I think last season Juventus played something like 16 games, scored 8 goals. So in terms of the numbers, they're good. It's whether or not he'll come across. I think he's 26 and he's a French international as well. So a player of really good pedigree, but whether or not he'll come to Spurs is a different matter. And for how much, he's young enough. He's an experienced international. We could be looking to spend 50, 60 plus for him. And for somebody that's going to compete with Dominic Solanke, do we really want to pay that kind of money? I don't know. So I think the rumours on that one is that it's all it is. It's just a rumour. I don't think it's anything concrete right now. Another one that is coming up in the rumour mill is Rafael Leao from AC Milan, a player that we have chased in the past on a number of occasions and actually lost out to AC. I think we have tried in previous seasons to buy him or at least get him on loan for a season, and we've not managed to put anything. I think it's proving very difficult to get him away from AC Milan. But I think times are starting to change for him there, and his camp are now looking to see what options the player has for moving away. And Juventus are needing to get some money in as well, as they're already with some financial constraints. And also, we are talking about Patrici potentially being involved in that deal. Ben Jacobs was talking earlier about the fact that he may come in to try and smooth the road between Spurs and AC Milan. He also gets on exceptionally well with AC Milan and the player's agent too, so it potentially could be something that might happen. Again, it's a player we've been linked for many seasons. Whether this one actually goes off or not, I don't know. I think there are potential better options out there that we could get that are more likely to come to us than what he would. I'm sure if he became available, there would be a number of other clubs, probably bigger than Spurs, that would be looking at bringing him in. So it'd be interesting to see how that one goes. Very good player. I'd love to see him at Spurs, but I don't think that one's going to happen either. Grealish, again, will he, won't he? We've been linked with him probably before last season finished, and it's been on and off over the last few weeks in terms of Spurs want him, Spurs don't want him, he wants Spurs, he doesn't want Spurs. And I think when you look at the other clubs that were up against, Aston Villa, potentially, Everton, and I can't remember, there's another club, English club, and I can't remember which one right in my head. He's a good player. He's not had an awful lot of game time over the last few seasons, so he's going to have to get fit very quick if he was to come to Spurs and do something. Talking a fee of it in and around 40 million, which actually isn't too bad. Certainly as an English player, it kind of ticks a few boxes for us from a squad perspective as well. But again, it's whether or not Spurs want to stump up the kind of money every week for his wages. It's going to be an awful lot. So unless he takes a pay cut or City pay part of those wages, it's going to be another one of those ones that, I can't see it happening for Spurs. Certainly when you look at he's 29 years of age as well. So there's that age bit as well. But who knows? We need a big marquee signing. We need something bigger. Kudus was great, but we need another one or two, especially where we've got everyone at the higher echelons of the club going on about how we have to compete on all fronts, how we have to win all of these trophies. You can't do it if you don't spend the money. And if you don't spend the money on the right players, the big players, the guys that are going to come in, they're going to compete for spots, not just bulk out the squad, but actually fight for that first team place and actually improve us as a whole. There's no point spending money on all these wee small players. And it's good that we're getting good young raw talent coming in that we can see in 3-4 years' time could be mainstays within the team. But we need it right now, and we can't have a chairman come out and make the statements that he's made and not back the manager with that calibre of player to be able to compete at home, top competitions, and in Europe. So we're going to have to get the pennies out. We're going to have to start spending big and bringing in good, big players. Another one, and a player that we have been linked with over the last 3-4 seasons, is the Ecuadorian Hincapie. A fantastic player out of Bayer Leverkusen. Supposedly, his camp have been offering him out to a number of clubs, one of which is Spurs, who have been a very long-term admirer of the player. And he is an exceptional player. I'd love to see him at Spurs. I think he's 23. I think the fee they're looking at Bayer is around 52.5 million. It does sound like a lot, but when you have a look at our left-back spot, where, well, let's say we're struggling in terms of who's going to be in that spot. We've got Ndogi and we've got Spence. Two very good players, two very good young players. Ndogi's unfit. Spence can't run that whole season himself. I think we're looking at 65 plus games potentially next season. Spence is a young lad. Even the fittest guy on the planet couldn't play those types of games. Certainly the intensity is going to have to be played on. So we need somebody. And the good thing with Hincapie is he can play out that side. He can also play in the centre as well. So he provides a hell of a lot of versatility. And he's an absolute beast of a player as well. So certainly I think somebody I'd love to see at Spurs. I think if he was to come, and I'm not saying he is, but if he did, certainly would end up being a fan very, very, very quickly. Very combative as a player as well, which we all love to see those types of players. You look back at what we've had in squads beforehand. You're talking about guys like Sandro, Stefan Freund, guys who just get stuck in Um, Always guys that endear themselves to the fans. So it would be a really great move if we could get somebody like that to come in as well. So the last sort of part in terms of what we're looking at is Richarlson still up in the air. You know, he comes in and he plays a game like that against Arsenal, the cup final, where he gets stuck in and really gets stuck in. Um, it's these are the players that you like seeing at a club as a fan. They endear themselves to you. They feel like they're one of the boys. They get stuck in. They give you everything. The problem with Richie is it's that consistency. Hopefully, if he doesn't go, he stays fit, gets a run of games, we might see what we've seen in that short spell a season or two ago after he had his operation and everything was sorted, that he had that massive run where he scored 13, 14 goals over the course of games before he dropped off again. However, he wants to stay in the Premier League. We've not really had any concrete offers for him. So I think it's going to be another player that we are going to get stuck with, very similar to Bazuma. The one thing with Spurs as well is that we just seem to really struggle to sell players that we want rid of. I mean, Brandhill's another one. He's there for another season. Okay, he's injured, but how many opportunities have we had to sell that player and we've just not managed to get it over the line? I think he's going to end up being another player who's going to see his contract out and walk away for nothing at the end of it, which is a shame because he's a player I wanted to do well at Spurs, but unfortunately, I don't think it is actually going to happen for him. So, and the last person we're going to talk about is Sonny. So, there's a number of things in at the moment in terms of his future. Is he going to stay at Spurs? We activated an extension to his contract for a year just so that if we were to sell him, we would get money for him. There was conversations around the fact that he was quite happy. He was wanted to stay at Spurs for another season, get another shot at the Champions League and see where it went. More lately, however, LAFC were interested and had supposedly had a few informal conversations in terms of would he like to come, etc., as most clubs are doing at the moment anyway. Inter Miami now seem to be entering into the mix with David Beckham, wanting to bring him over and form a really good partnership in terms of Messi and all the other players that are there. So there's two really big American options. And to be fair, if you're coming towards the end of your career and you're getting an opportunity to play with Messi, even if he's coming to the end of his career, it is a hard option to turn down. Another twist to this tale is apparently Spurs are also considering offering him another extension to put another year on that contract so he can play out this year and we can get some funds at the following end of that year and allowing him to move on. So I think there's a lot more still to come in terms of Sonny. I don't want to see him go. I think in terms of what experience he can bring to the team, don't think he is a first team player anymore. Certainly not a first name on the team sheet. But in terms of being able to bring him on in the last 20, 30 minutes of a game, I think he certainly has enough about him that he could turn it. He can do something for us. And I certainly think, given the fact the man's given us 10 years of his career and the lifting of a trophy last season, I think he certainly deserves to be able to be the master of his own destiny in terms of what happens next for him. And again, as I say, with such a good, exciting young crop of players coming through as well, having someone like Sonny and Davies as well in and around that squad, just the experience, being able to put a shoulder, or an arm around young players' shoulders and just give them advice and guidance in terms of how to advance their career, technique, and things like that. There, it's worth keeping them. But at the end of the day, it's all about the squad, and the squad is massive at the moment. We've got some like 9 centre backs, and this is looking at the whole squad, including all the young lads as well. And we can only have so many people registered for the Premier League as well as the Champions League. And what do you do with everything over and above that? You can't have older players sitting in a squad that actually are not named in anything because you're paying money for nothing. Some of the younger players, if you've got them, you can put them out onto loan. You may even be able to loan some of the older players out. To be fair, if Sonny was available on a loan, you'd probably get an absolute horde of teams wanting to take him off your hands. So it's going to be interesting, I think, over the next couple of weeks to see what and where we are going with things. But Spurs do have a tendency to leave things to the last minute, certainly in the summer transfer windows, where we're looking to pick up those deals. But there was a real statement of intent delivered by Daniel Levy and co. So they need to start bringing in those players now. We can't wait till January. We could be out of the Champions League by then. So we need to get them in now. That's the video, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. Drop a like in the video, comments down below. please subscribe to the channel. Help us get bigger, reach bigger audiences, and all the rest of it. But definitely let me know what your thoughts are on everything we've spoken about today, as well as any ideas for future videos. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.